She thought he was the new intern, until she walked into his office and froze in shock. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. The sound of keyboards clicking filled the open space office of Horizon Digital, a fast-growing tech company in downtown Seattle. The morning light poured through the glass walls, glinting off metal desks and coffee cups. Anna Wells rushed in, clutching a stack of reports to her chest, her curls slightly frizzed from the drizzle outside. She was late again. "Morning, Anna," someone teased from the design pod. She flashed a sheepish smile, sliding into her chair. Just as she was booting up her computer, the elevator doors opened with a chime. A tall man stepped out, dressed in a plain gray hoodie and jeans, carrying 2 boxes labeled archives. He looked a little lost, scanning the room. "You must be new," Anna said, jumping up instinctively. "The intern program started this week, right? Here, let me help." Before he could answer, she took one of the boxes from his hands, ignoring how surprisingly heavy it was. "Wow, they're making interns do the heavy lifting already. Typical corporate welcome." The man chuckled softly, his voice calm, deep, but warm. "I guess so," he said. "Thanks for helping." "No problem," Anna replied, leading him toward the back storage area. "You'll want to avoid the espresso machine after 3 p.m. It sounds like a dying spaceship." He smiled, amused by her easy chatter. "Good to know." When she handed him a paper cup from the break counter later, she noticed his hands strong but not rough, the kind of hands that didn't really match a college intern's. "Here," she said brightly, pushing the cup toward him. "Caffeine helps with first-aid jitters. It's just black coffee, but it's honest." He looked at the cup. The words printed on it read, "Dream boldly." Something about it made him pause. "Thank you," he murmured. "I'll remember that." "Don't worry," Anna said, grinning. "You'll get used to the chaos. What's your name again?" "Ethan," he answered after a beat, his gaze curious, like he was memorizing the moment. "Nice to meet you, Ethan the intern," she said, laughing as she waved and hurried back to her desk. What Anna didn't see was the faint smirk tugging at the corner of his lips as he glanced around the office, the company's logo shining behind the glass wall of the executive floor upstairs. He wasn't an intern at all. He owned the place. Anna had no idea that her small act of kindness that morning would be the start of something far bigger than she could imagine. Later that day, as the office buzzed with the usual noise of phone calls and clicking keyboards, she noticed Ethan again, quietly fixing the printer jam that no one ever managed to fix. "You might be the first intern who actually makes that thing work," she joked, leaning against the counter. He smiled modestly, sleeves rolled up, a smudge of ink on his wrist. "Just lucky, I guess," he said. She laughed softly. "If you can fix that, you can survive anything here." Ethan looked at her for a second longer than necessary, his expression unreadable, before returning to the machine. What Anna did not know was that every move he made, every word he heard from his employees, was being mentally noted. He was there to understand his people, not from the top floor but from their side of the desk. When lunchtime came, Anna sat by herself in the cafeteria, scrolling through her phone. Ethan passed by with a tray, looking uncertain. "Do you mind if I join you?" he asked. "Of course," she said, gesturing to the empty seat. The conversation was easy, natural. She told him about her small apartment 2 bus stops away, about her mother's health, and how she took this job hoping to build stability. "I do not have a fancy degree," she admitted with a shy smile. "But I work hard, and I am not afraid to start from the bottom." Ethan listened intently. "That is what most people forget," he said. "The bottom is where the real strength is built." His words struck her, simple yet sincere. For a moment, she felt seen. When the break ended, Anna hurried back to her desk, unaware that Ethan was watching her from across the room. Later that evening, rain began to tap against the office windows. Most people had already left, but Anna stayed behind, trying to finish a client report. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above. Ethan appeared again, holding 2 steaming paper cups. "You should not stay this late alone," he said. She smiled, rubbing her tired eyes. "Deadlines do not care about the rain." He set 1 cup on her desk. "Then this might help." She glanced at it. The same CAF logo, "Dream boldly." You remembered? She asked. I pay attention, he said. She took a sip and almost laughed. It is terrible coffee. Then I am in good company, he replied, leaning against the cubicle wall. They shared a quiet moment, the kind that did not need many words. Just two people in the glow of a city office, both pretending to be ordinary. When she finally shut down her computer, it was almost 9. Ethan offered to walk her to the bus stop, but she refused gently. You have done enough already. Interns need their sleep too, he chuckled, watching as she disappeared into the misty street. The next morning, Anna found a small sticky note on her desk. In neat handwriting it said, "Thank you for making the long days feel shorter." Her heart warmed, not knowing that the man she believed to be an intern was actually the founder of Horizon Digital, a billionaire in plain clothes who had come down from the top floor to remember what honesty looked like. What he found was her. The following week moved quickly, filled with meetings, project deadlines, and endless cups of coffee that tasted like burnt hope. Anna and Ethan began to fall into a rhythm, one that felt both professional and quietly personal. Every morning he would pass by her desk, leaving a small note or a cup of that same awful coffee, and every time she would roll her eyes but secretly smile. One Thursday afternoon, the office was buzzing with tension. A big presentation was coming up, and their manager, Mr. Collins, was in one of his moods. Anna had spent 3 nights polishing the slides, making sure every number was right, every color matched the company's brand guide. She was exhausted but proud. "Intern, mister," Collins barked suddenly, pointing at Ethan. "Go get the client folder from my desk and hurry up." Ethan blinked, startled but said nothing. Anna's head snapped up in surprise. "I can get it," she offered quickly, but Ethan shook his head slightly. "It is all right," he said quietly and walked away. When he returned, Mr. Collins barely looked up. "Finally. Took you long enough." Ethan handed over the folder without a word. The entire team pretended not to notice, but Anna's jaw tightened. Later, when the meeting ended, she found him near the copy room, standing by the window. "You did not have to let him talk to you like that," she said softly. He looked out at the skyline, gray and shimmering with rain. "It does not bother me," he replied. "People show who they are when they think no one important is watching." She frowned. Still, it was unfair. He smiled faintly. "You care too much, Anna." "And you do not care enough," she shot back, then instantly regretted it. He turned toward her, his eyes calm, almost sad. "Maybe I care more than you think." The words hung between them, heavy with something unspoken. That night, Anna walked home under the drizzle, thinking about what he said. Something about Ethan felt different, too thoughtful for an intern, too composed. But she pushed the thought aside. The next morning she arrived early to find a folder on her desk. Inside was a printed version of her presentation, with handwritten notes in the margins, small corrections, better phrasing, and at the bottom a line that read, "You are brilliant when you stop doubting yourself." There was no signature, but she knew exactly who it was from. For the first time in a long while she felt seen, valued not for her position but for her potential. The company was preparing for a major visit from the board the following week. Rumor had it that the new CEO was finally going to show up in person. No one knew his face, only that he had taken over after the founder stepped down for health reasons. Anna joked with her friends about it at lunch. "Watch him be another rich guy in a fancy suit who has never written an email himself." Ethan looked up from his salad, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "You think so?" "Totally," she said. "People like that do not even know what a printer jam looks like." He laughed softly. "Maybe one of them does." She tilted her head, smiling. "Not likely." As she walked away, he watched her go, torn between admiration and guilt. He had promised himself to stay invisible, to observe quietly. But now it was impossible. Anna had become the reason he remembered why he built this company in the first place. Somewhere between her honesty and her courage, she had reminded him of the humanity that money often erased, and he knew that very soon he would have to tell her the truth. By Monday morning, Horizon Digital felt different. There was a buzz of energy in the air, the kind that came before something important. Everyone whispered about the upcoming board visit, double-checking reports and cleaning their desks as if preparing for royalty. Anna arrived early, coffee in hand, only to find Ethan already there, leaning over the copier again. "Do you ever go home?" she teased. He smiled. "Home is overrated." "Says the intern who probably sleeps under his desk," she said with a grin. He did not deny it, only chuckled softly, his eyes holding something she could not quite read. That afternoon, the announcement came over the intercom. All staff, please gather in the conference hall at 4 p.m. for the executive address. The room filled quickly, employees adjusting their ties, whispering guesses about the new CEO. Anna found a seat near the back. Ethan stood beside her, hands in his pockets, quiet as usual. "Nervous?" she asked. "Maybe a little," he replied. "You?" "Always," she admitted. The lights dimmed. The projector flickered to life. The company's chairman walked on stage, microphone in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "thank you for your hard work and dedication. Today, we welcome the man who will lead Horizon Digital into its next chapter, our new Chief Executive Officer." The crowd hushed. The chairman smiled. "Please welcome Mr. Ethan Cole." For a heartbeat, Anna thought she misheard. Her eyes darted to the man beside her. He was no longer beside her. Instead, he was walking toward the stage, every step measured, confident, familiar. The hoodie and jeans were gone, replaced by a charcoal gray suit that looked like it belonged on a magazine cover. The room erupted in applause, but Anna sat frozen, the sound fading around her. He took the microphone, his voice calm, composed, unmistakable. "I have spent the last month among you, not as your CEO, but as one of you. I wanted to understand the heartbeat of this company, to see the people behind the numbers, the ideas, the late nights. What I found was a team full of brilliance, passion, and kindness." His eyes swept across the room, and for a moment they stopped on her. "And I learned that leadership means nothing without humanity." Anna's stomach twisted. The intern she had joked with, shared coffee with, defended he had been the boss all along. As the speech ended, she slipped out quietly, heart pounding. The rain outside had started again, soft and steady. She walked fast, not caring where she was going, only that she needed to breathe. Her phone buzzed Ethan's name on the screen. She ignored it. At home, she dropped her bag on the couch and sank down, staring at the floor. Every conversation, every smile replayed in her mind. Had he been testing her? Was she just another experiment in his search for humanity? A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Ethan, soaked from the rain, holding the same Dream Boldly cup she had given him weeks ago. "Anna," he said softly, "please, let me explain." She crossed her arms, her voice trembling. "Explain what? That you lied about everything? That you stood there and let everyone treat you like an intern just to see how we behaved?" He took a breath. "I never meant to lie to you. I needed to remember what this company was built on. You reminded me." "By accident," she snapped. "You let me make a fool of myself." "No," he said firmly. "You made me see what honesty looks like." She looked away, tears burning her eyes. "You should go back to your world, Ethan. The one with boardrooms and luxury suits. I do not belong there." He hesitated, rain dripping from his hair. "Maybe that is exactly why I need you there," he said quietly. But she turned away, closing the door with shaking hands. Outside, the sound of rain swallowed his voice, and for the first time in a long time, Ethan Cole, the man who had everything, felt truly small. The next few days felt like a blur. Anna avoided work, claiming sick leave, though she knew it was more about her heart than her health. She could not face the office, not after seeing Ethan on that stage, not after realizing that every conversation had been part of a truth she never knew existed. Her phone filled with unread messages, some from colleagues gossiping, some from Ethan himself. He had texted only once that truly mattered. It read, "I am sorry." She had stared at it for hours but never replied. On the third morning, she went for a walk along the waterfront, the gray Seattle sky heavy above her. The air smelled of salt and rain, the kind of morning that made the city feel smaller, quieter. She stopped by a food cart for a cup of coffee, wrapping her hands around the warmth. "You look like someone who lost something," the old vendor said kindly. Anna managed a small smile. "Maybe I did." When she returned home, a thick envelope was waiting at her door, sealed with the Horizon Digital logo. Inside was a handwritten letter and a familiar Navy notebook. Her heart skipped. The note read, "Anna, this is yours. You left your words on the page. I just helped you see them. Please meet me, Ethan." Beneath it was a single address, the rooftop terrace of Horizon Tower. For hours she paced, unsure. Part of her wanted to throw it away. Another part could not ignore the ache of unfinished truth. By sunset, curiosity and something softer pulled her back. When she stepped out of the elevator onto the rooftop, The city lights stretched in every direction, golden reflections on wet glass. Ethan was standing by the railing, no suit this time, just a dark sweater and that same calm expression. "You came," he said, relief flickering in his eyes. "I almost did not," she replied. "But you owe me honesty." "You are right," he said. "I pretended to be someone else because I had lost touch with what mattered. The people below that floor are the reason this company exists, and I had forgotten that. You reminded me." She folded her arms. "You could have learned that without deceiving me." "I know," he admitted. "But if I had walked into that office as a CEO, you would have treated me like one. I would never have seen who you really are." His voice softened. "And I would have missed the best part of my life." She looked down, torn between anger and the painful pull of sincerity in his tone. "Do you think a few kind words will fix everything?" "No," he said simply. "But maybe actions can." He reached into his coat and handed her a folder. Inside were blueprints, sketches, and a proposal titled Open Hands Project. It was a foundation, her idea, her dream written in her own words from weeks ago. "You said you wanted to build something that gives people a chance," Ethan said quietly. "So let us build it, together." Her breath caught. "You remembered all that?" "Every word," he said. "Because you believed in something when I only believed in profit." The wind tugged at her hair, and for the first time, she looked at him not as her boss, not as the man who had lied, but as someone trying to make things right. She closed the folder slowly. "You are serious about this?" "Completely," he said. "And if you say no, I will still build it. But I want you to lead it." The honesty in his eyes disarmed her. She sighed softly, half laughing through the tension. "You really are impossible," he smiled. "So are you." The silence that followed was not heavy anymore, just real. She finally nodded. "All right, Ethan, I will help. But this time, no secrets." "No secrets," he promised. As they stood there under the fading city light, the storm between them began to quiet, replaced by something gentler, fragile but real, the beginning of trust reborn. Weeks passed, and the Open Hands Project became more than just an idea. The empty floor on the west side of Horizon Tower transformed into a hive of energy. Volunteers painted the walls, boxes of laptops arrived, and the company's logo was replaced by a new one that read Dream Boldly Foundation. Every time Anna walked through those glass doors, she felt both proud and terrified. It was her dream, her words, now alive in front of her. Ethan stayed close but never overstepped. He let her lead the meetings, pitch the mission to investors, and hire her own small team. Watching her, he realized that leadership did not always look like standing at the front of a boardroom. Sometimes it looked like listening. One morning, as the first group of scholarship students arrived, Anna stood at the entrance greeting each of them with a smile. "Welcome to your new beginning," she said softly, shaking their hands. Ethan watched from the balcony above, his heart swelling with quiet pride. Later, as they sat together in his office no longer divided by titles or lies, Anna flipped through a report and said, "I never imagined my name would be on anything other than a paycheck." Ethan leaned back, smiling. "You earned every line of it." "No," she said, meeting his eyes. "We did." Their laughter filled the room, easy and unforced. For a while, everything felt right again. But success came with whispers. Some employees whispered that Anna was getting special treatment, that the boss's charity was just a publicity stunt. One afternoon, she overheard two managers talking near the elevator. "Of course she is the face of the foundation," one of them said. "The CEO is in love with her." The words hit like ice. She stepped back before they could see her, her pulse racing. That night, she confronted Ethan. "People are saying I only got this because of you," she said, her voice trembling. "Because you like me," he frowned, standing from his desk. "That is not true, Anna, and you know it." "Do I?" she asked. "I worked my whole life to be taken seriously, and now all they see is some woman who caught the CEO's attention." He stepped closer. "Then we will prove them wrong. We will let the results speak." But she shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "I do not want my name to be a rumor." Ethan reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Anna," he said quietly, "you built this. You gave it a heartbeat." "And you gave it a shadow," she whispered. The room fell silent, except for the faint hum of the city below. "Maybe," she said after a long pause, "I should take some time away. Let people see this is not about us." Ethan's jaw tightened. "If that is what you need, I will not stop you." She nodded slowly, her heart aching as she turned to leave. He watched her walk out, the elevator doors closing like a final chapter. Days became weeks. Without her, the foundation still ran smoothly, but the energy felt hollow. Ethan buried himself in work, attending events, approving budgets, pretending he was fine. Yet every time he saw a Dream Boldly cup on his desk, he thought of her. Across town, Anna volunteered quietly at a community center, staying away from attention. She missed the sound of his laugh, the way he listened without judgment, but she told herself this was necessary. One night, as she closed the center, she noticed a stack of new donation boxes outside. On top of them sat a note written in familiar handwriting. "Keep dreaming boldly. The world still needs your kindness." She held the note to her chest, realizing he had never stopped believing in her. And in that quiet moment, under the dim streetlight, Anna finally understood that sometimes love was not about grand gestures or confessions. It was about showing up, even from a distance, until the truth found its way home. Months slipped by, and winter settled over the city like a heavy blanket. The Dream Boldly Foundation continued to grow, helping hundreds of students find new paths. But to Ethan, the success felt hollow without Anna beside him. He attended every ceremony, smiled for every photo, but when the applause faded, all that remained was silence. One evening, he sat alone in his office, the skyline stretching before him. A framed photo of the first foundation class sat on his desk. Anna stood in the middle, her smile bright and real. He traced the edge of the frame with his thumb, wondering if he had done the right thing by letting her go. Across town, Anna was finishing a night shift at the community center. She had spent the day organizing a winter coat drive, her hands raw from the cold but her heart steady. When the last volunteer left, she sat by the window, looking out at the softly falling snow. Despite everything, she could not deny that a part of her still missed him, his calm voice, his patience, his belief in her. Just then, her phone buzzed. A message popped up from an unknown number. "Turn on the TV," it said. She hesitated, then reached for the remote. The local news anchor was speaking about the Dream Boldly Foundation's latest project, a scholarship expansion in partnership with public schools. But what caught her attention was Ethan, standing at the podium. His voice was steady, sincere. "This foundation began because of one person's belief that kindness can change the world," he said. "Her name is Anna Wells. She reminded me that leadership without empathy is empty. This project, this mission, is dedicated to her." Anna's hand flew to her mouth, eyes filling with tears. She whispered, "Ethan, back." At the tower. After the event ended, Ethan walked out into the snow alone. The cameras were gone, the lights turned off, and for the first time in months, he felt peaceful. He had said what needed to be said, not for the public, but for her. The next morning, he found an envelope waiting on his desk. Inside was a note in familiar handwriting. "You once told me actions speak louder than words. I heard you loud and clear. Meet me at the old cafe." His pulse quickened. Within the hour, he was there, standing in the same small coffee shop where it had all begun. The bell over the door chimed as Anna walked in, bundled in a gray coat, snow still clinging to her hair. For a moment, they just looked at each other, both unsure how to start. Then she smiled faintly. "You finally learned how to make headlines for the right reasons." He laughed softly. "I had a good teacher." She took a seat across from him, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug. "You really meant everything you said?" she asked quietly. "Every word," he said. "You taught me that success means nothing without purpose, and love means nothing without honesty." She exhaled slowly, the tension melting. "You know, I used to think you were just another man in a suit pretending to care." "And now?" he asked. She smiled gently. "Now I think you are a man who learned to care for real." For a while they talked about the students, the foundation, the future. The cafe was nearly empty, the same soft hum of conversation that once started their story filling the air again. When they stood to leave, Ethan pulled a small object from his coat pocket. It was the Dream Boldly cup, slightly worn but carefully kept. "I never threw it away," he said. "It reminded me where everything started." She looked at it, then at him. "Maybe we should start again too." He nodded, a quiet smile crossing his face. As they stepped outside, snow falling gently around them, it felt as if the world had turned a page. The city lights shimmered on wet pavement, and somewhere between forgiveness and hope, two hearts found their way back home. Spring arrived with sunlight and soft winds, carrying a sense of renewal that matched the quiet rhythm of their days. Anna returned to the foundation, not as a symbol, but as a leader. Her nameplate on the door read, Director of Community Outreach, and for once, she felt it belonged to her. The team greeted her warmly, and though some had once whispered, now they respected her. She had earned it the hard way. Ethan kept his promise. No more secrets, no more shadows. He supported her work from behind the scenes, letting her shine. Together, they expanded programs, built new partnerships, and launched a mentorship initiative that paired young students with Horizon employees. Every Friday, Anna would walk through the training hall, greeting students and volunteers alike. "How are you all holding up?" she would ask, her smile genuine. They adored her. One afternoon, after a long meeting, she found Ethan waiting outside her office with 2 cups of coffee. "Do you ever stop working?" he teased, handing one to her. "Only when someone brings me caffeine," she said, accepting it with a grin. He leaned against the wall. "Do you ever think about how far we have come?" She nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes it feels like a different lifetime. That girl who thought you were an intern, she had no idea." "Neither did the man pretending to be one," he said softly. Their laughter echoed down the hallway, but the peace they had rebuilt was soon tested. A major investor, Mr. Harrington, arrived for a routine audit. He was a stern man, the kind who valued numbers more than stories. During a board meeting, he questioned the foundation's budget and Anna's leadership. "This is all very noble," he said, flipping through the reports. "But charity does not sustain companies. Emotional projects do not pay dividends." The room fell silent. Ethan's expression darkened, but Anna spoke before he could. "With respect, Mr. Harrington, not everything valuable fits into a spreadsheet. These programs are not about profit, they are about purpose. And purpose builds loyalty, reputation, and humanity. That is how companies endure." The investor smirked. "Touching words, but how do we measure that?" Ethan finally stood. "We measure it," he said firmly, "in the lives changed because of her work. And if you cannot see that, maybe this is not the right partnership for us." The tension was thick, but Anna stayed calm. Later, as they stepped into the corridor, she looked at him. "You did not have to defend me?" "Yes, I did," he said. "You reminded them what this company stands for." She smiled faintly. "You really have changed, Ethan?" "You are the reason I did," he replied. That evening, they hosted a small celebration for the newest graduates of the Foundation's program. Fairy lights glowed across the rooftop terrace where their story had nearly ended months ago. Music played softly, and the air smelled of fresh flowers and rain. As speeches ended, Ethan took the microphone unexpectedly. "I want to thank someone very special," he said, his voice steady but warm. "When I forgot what leadership meant, she reminded me. When I lost sight of what matters, she gave it back to me. This entire foundation, this entire journey, began with one person's kindness. Anna, would you come up here?" She hesitated, blushing as the crowd turned to her, clapping. When she joined him, he handed her a small velvet box. Her heart skipped. "Ethan, what are you doing?" "Finishing what we started," he said quietly. Inside was not a ring, but a key engraved with the words, "Our Beginning." "This is the key to the new headquarters," he said. "A place built on what we both believed in. That kindness can change lives. I want you to open it with me tomorrow." Her eyes filled with tears. "You really do not make things simple, do you?" "Never," he said with a grin. The guests laughed, and as the lights shimmered across the terrace, Anna realized that this was not just another chapter, it was the life they had built, one act of honesty at a time. The next morning, the city was painted in golden light as the sun rose over the skyline. Anna arrived early at the new headquarters, the silver key glinting in her hand. The building stood tall on the corner of Fifth Avenue, its glass façade reflecting the morning sky. Ethan was already there, waiting by the entrance with 2 cups of coffee. "You beat me here," she said, smiling. "I could not miss the opening," he replied, handing her a cup. "Besides, it felt right to start this day the way we started everything, with coffee and hope." She laughed softly. Together, they walked toward the door. A small crowd had gathered: employees, volunteers, students, and even some of the first graduates of the foundation. Cameras clicked, but the moment did not feel performative. It felt real. Ethan turned to her. "Ready?" "Always," she said. She slid the key into the lock, and as the doors opened, a wave of cheers filled the air. Inside, the lobby gleamed with light. On one wall, a mural stretched across the marble, painted by students the foundation had supported. In the center of it was a single phrase in bold letters, "Built on kindness." Anna's breath caught. "You did this," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "We did this." The tour began, laughter echoing through the halls. There were classrooms, art studios, a technology lab, and even a caf space named Dream Boldly. When Anna saw it, she turned to him with tears in her eyes. "You kept everything," she said. "Every part of our story." "Some things are too important to let go," he said. After the ceremony, the crowd thinned, leaving just the two of them standing by the mural. The noise of the city hummed faintly outside. "Do you ever think about how strange it all was?" Anna asked. "The way we met, the mistakes, the secrets." Ethan nodded. "It was messy," he said. "But maybe that is what made it real." She smiled, her eyes soft. "If you could do it all again, would you still pretend to be an intern?" He chuckled quietly. "Probably not. But I would still find my way to you somehow." The words lingered in the air, warm and sincere. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small ring box. "Anna, I told you last night that the key was not a proposal," he said, his voice steady. "But this is." Her breath caught. "Ethan, you taught me that love is not about titles or wealth. It is about choosing honesty, even when it is hard. So today, I am asking you to keep building this life with me, not as my employee, not as my partner in business, but as my partner in everything." Tears welled in her eyes as he opened the box. The ring was simple, elegant, with a small diamond that caught the morning light. "Say yes," he whispered. She nodded, voice trembling. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." The crowd outside erupted in applause as they stepped out hand in hand, the city stretching endlessly before them. Later that evening, as twilight fell, they returned to the rooftop terrace, where everything had once fallen apart. The lights shimmered above, the air cool and gentle. Anna leaned on the railing, watching the city below. "Do you ever think we were meant to meet that way?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled. "I think fate has a strange sense of humor." She laughed, resting her head against his shoulder. "Well, I am grateful for it." "Me too," he said, wrapping his arm around her. They stood there in silence, watching the lights flicker like 1,000 tiny dreams being born. For a man who once hid behind power and a woman who once doubted her worth, they had found something neither could fake truth. As the night settled, Anna whispered, "We really did build this on kindness, did we not?" Ethan looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. "The best mistake we ever made." And beneath the endless sky, their story came full circle, a love not born from wealth or status, but from the courage to be real.